Warning. This video contains massive spoilers for Marvel's What If Episode 1. So if you do not want this video to ruin any of the fun you can have watching it, please go watch the show and come back to this video. Thank you to everyone for watching. With that said, let's get to the video. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Review Avenue on the Queen City Circle channel. I am your host, Jacob. I hope you're all having a good day today. Joining me today are my co-host Lilith.
Hey, I sure watched this.
Lance.
Hello, people of the interwebs.
And Logan from the Sweo2 Twitch Gaming channel.
What up?
Glad to have you all here. Today we will be reviewing and discussing Marvel's What If? Episode 1, What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger? So be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And with all that said, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So the plot for the first episode of Marvel's What If is pretty much, we take place right back to Captain America's The First Avenger, where he's about to get into the test chamber, and he's going to get injected with Dr. Erskine's formula. However, the one split second that the watcher sees in this show is the scene where Peggy, instead of going up to the stands and sitting down, she stays down in the observing area and sees the Hydra agent leave the suitcase with the bomb and intercedes in that plan. The bomb does go off. Steve jumps out before the machine breaks or goes off, and he gets shot. And now they're like, we only have, it's powered up. Somebody has to get into this. So Peggy Carter jumps into the machine, where she is injected with the last formula of the super soldier serum of Dr. Erskine's strand. From then on, Captain Britain is born. And Captain Britain, along with skinny Steve Rogers, go out, find the Howling Commandos, including Bucky Barnes, who survives this episode, by the way, and starts destroying Hydra one by one. However, the change in this involving Red Skull is, instead of making weapons with the Tesseract, he ends up, for some reason, opening a portal to Cthulhu's lair. And a giant squid pops out, and Peggy Carter has to fight the giant squid with skinny Steve Rogers, who has now been given Howard Stark's first iteration of the Iron Man suit, called, what is it called? The Hydra Stomper. And Peggy Carter ends up fighting the Cthulhu creature, defeating Red Skull is actually killed by the Cthulhu creature, and she ends up jumping into the portal, disappearing, taken out of time, like Steve was in his movie, except not thrown into ice. Then we go all the way up to 2012, where S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Barton, and Nick Fury are testing the Tesseract, and opens up the portal. Chunks of squid come out, and emerges Captain Britain, wondering where she is, what time is it, and she had a date. That is the plot of the first Marvel's What If episode. So, with all that said, let's go around the room and let's immediately start on what we think. Lilith, you are
I was going to say, I would actually love to take the lead on the plot for episode 1. All right? Because I'm going to be pretty harsh on it. For those watching at home, our last couple videos have probably made it pretty clear that I am a trans woman. And I consider myself, in this respect, to be a feminist. A progressive feminist at that. And I'm only prefacing it with that because this was the most blatant display of performative activism by a multi-billion-dollar company that I have ever seen. They sacrificed plot to have a women-first narrative, which is not bad. I feel like I need to clarify that. Women-first movies can be good. There's been plenty.
Agreed.
This is not that. This sacrifices any kind of external force. There's nothing driving this version of Captain America other than the men saying, "Ooh, girl's bad." She goes to rescue the Howling Commandos from Hydra, and even they, in what is basically an extermination camp for Hydra, and even them, when giving a shining light of hope and getting rescued, are like, "Ooh, girls are icky," and it's so stupid and unrealistic.
I don't want a girl to
Yes,
save me.
the general kind of being an asshole on like in the home front, that kind of makes sense. You know, having a sexist character whose trait is solely defined by his sexism. Okay, I get that. A lot of plots have strawmen. But having it be every character who comes in contact with your lead, it's a repetitive plot point, and it's done so poorly that it feels like it's forced activism that they don't actually care about. It does not come across as genuine. It comes across as trying to flip a coin to get more support from viewers at home. And it was disappointing to see from a company like Disney,
Uh,
who has always been back and forth on their support of any marginalized group, as they do have a bad history with that kind of stuff. But without getting too into the weeds into that, that's my overall review of the plot, because it severely hampered the narrative every turn that it got the chance.
Okay. Logan, your thoughts on the plot?
So overall, I will agree with Lily. It seemed very sexist towards women because every turn you had, it was, hey, no, because you're a woman. But I thought it was like a good, f you, that whole thing, and like it was a good thing for little girls that love Marvel and stuff like that. Like, hey, just because they think this way doesn't mean that we still can't do that. I thought it was like a good message, especially for the younger crowd, the younger generation. It was good for them. But I liked the whole plot, how it's going to be with the whole What If series, how it just flips everything. I like the direction they go with it to make it, a different universe happened. I thought they did very well in that regard.
Lance, your thoughts on the plot?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. The plot, I kind of liked the realism of the time era that they were working with. Um, Back in that time era, women were, hey, you stay at home, you have children, you cook. That's what you did. Um, they kind of went with the opposite of that, being that Peggy is a part of Shield and works with Cap on a somewhat regular basis. I thought it was a pretty good idea to take the opposite approach, allow, like Logan said, girls who are coming into Marvel, or people that are just like, hey, I want a female character that I can, like and enjoy. It kind of brings them into that. Some of the other characters, like the general, for example, I thought it was kind of poor acting or just less. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a 5-year-old directed a part of his script. I'm like, they're cheap puns, they're cheap insults. I'm like, we can do a little bit better here. This is Disney. They practically buy everything out. I don't know why we couldn't get someone good to direct this portion, but Cthulhu, or just call it Giant Squid Monster, I thought that was pretty cool as a part of the plot. Red Skull, I mean, naturally, anytime you see Cap, I mean, you're going to have him be a part of it, at least in his earlier storyline. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was not Marvel's best work.
I'm definitely gonna have to agree with Lance so far. There were a lot of parts I did like, but a majority out the gate as a premiere for a show definitely stumbled big time through it. And just reiterating what everybody here has said, that the hardcore feminist points, especially coming from the general character, were so badly written and they were so forced down your throat. It was like, we get it, okay? She's a woman. For years we have liked Peggy Carter for other aspects than she's just a woman. So we don't need to hang on to the fact of what is in between her legs. You know, we liked her for the character she was, the emotion she had, and how she interacted with other characters. This, I feel like they really damaged Peggy Carter's character and almost made her out to be, you know, solely fixated on proving to every man out there that she was better. And going back onto the first movie, we got a little bit of that, but it was more visual representations of how she's better than men in the field she's in because of her experience and her training. Not the fact that she's just a female outpacing men. She's just good in the field she's in. And this one, they totally screwed that up. Another issue I have with the plot pertaining to Captain Britain is, this might be only me, but right out the gate, it seemed like she had in-game level powers and fighting skills and abilities that Steve Rogers, Captain America, ended up developing after years and years and years of training and fighting different combatants. Right out the gate, she was like almost like a god, you know, unstoppable.
Like 10 times of what Steve was.
Exactly. And there was nothing, she had no failure for her to build off of. Steve Rogers, what's great about his character is he learns from his failures. It's so important in his character arc that it is a main famous staple in Endgame, Avengers Endgame, when he meets his past self, because of all the mistakes he's seen and done and what he's learned from how his weaknesses, his enemies have used him. He was able to outsmart his younger self by saying, hey, Bucky's alive, just enough to distract him to get that knockout blow and then take the scepter. This one, that was like Captain Britain. She's Endgame Captain Britain. She's awesome right out the gate. I did not like that at all. I couldn't relate to it whatsoever. Bucky was okay. The other characters were fine. I did like the whole Hydra Stomper aspect. That was actually more enjoyable to me than actual Captain Britain, believe it or not, which is kind of disappointing because your main character focus is getting outshined by a side character. The Cthulhu thing never bothered me. I thought they did Red Skull perfectly fine justice. I thought it was a nice twist. But overall, I would say highly disappointing right out the gate. What I did like about it was not enough for me to be like, you did this one right, Marvel. You did this one right. However, I would like to talk about the animation. Now, what is my thoughts on the animation so far is, at first it was kind of jarring, but I can't really think of anything that I can compare it to. Not that I'm like a huge, like, every anime in my head, but the more I watched it, it was okay. Maybe it kind of a little stuttery for my taste. It doesn't look as smooth as it could be, but I kind of like that as it went on. It never took me out of the show once. Lilith, your thoughts on the animation?
I actually want to put a bullet point here real quick on what we were talking about previously. Because I do just want to offer some constructive criticism to the writers who wrote the first episode of What If. It would have been a more interesting story if, instead of what we had focused on, we had focused on what they set up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where the serum makes you more of yourself. I would have liked to be able to learn through that,
Right,
what Captain Carter's initial like inner self is that became more of as that 30-minute story progressed.
No,
But
they just literally made her overpowered, and they're like, that was it. This just gives you a stupid amount of power. It doesn't
I
brighten your
would've-
good sides, you know.
I feel like that could have done a lot more better for her character than what we got. But anyway, I digress. We were talking about the animation. I hated it.
Wow. Why?
I'm a big anime watcher. but I am by no means an expert when it comes to animation.
Is there an anime you can call out that it has a similar animation off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, not really. I mean,
Would you say
It
it's
almost-
unique?
it's unique to the point where like it almost looks cell shaded.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I didn't like it. It was distracting. I didn't think it added anything. Because Marvel already has a quality where it feels cartoony and campy sometimes. And this animation style did not help. I would have liked to see something more realistic. Maybe not like try to push photorealism like some of the Resident Evil movies or anything like that. But I wanted something other than this.
Well, I do have some visuals here. A couple of the trailers, just to kind of give people an idea of the animation. And it's very, I don't know, it has that cutty kind of feel to it. Not as natural. I don't know.
So it definitely reminds me of like a comic book Borderlands feel, but the more with the animation, the direct feel is to relate it to any sort of anime. It kind of reminds me of, if you guys ever seen it, Ruby.
RWBY?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ruby. It reminds me a bit of that mixed to the Borderlands comic book style.
Yeah, it does.
But-
It does have a Borderlands like Telltale games animation. That's a perfect example.
I think that's the best way to describe that as animation, but I think it's a definitely a different take, but I don't mind it.
I enjoyed it the more I watched it.
100%. The more it progressed, I definitely liked it more. The first one, I have to say, it was jarring. I was like, whoa! I didn't expect it to go this wild with it, but I think as it goes on, it's going to get more crisp and more fluid with it.
I don't know. I think they might just stick with it.
What I'm saying is the style, it'll get more polished as they're going on, like as they get reviews from like critics and like, other big big ways to critics, yeah. And
Critics.
best way that the best way they're going to figure out about it and say, oh, okay, maybe if we polish this up a little bit more, it'll look better. It's kind of like the difference between going from Dragon Ball Z to Super. It was like a big
Right.
jarring thing. So at that, it's a learning curve for them. I think they're going the right way, but it's going to take a little bit to polish it off.
Lance, your thoughts?
I'll be completely honest with you. I was not a huge fan of the animation style. I grew up with like the X-Men animated series, Spider-Man. There's a couple of like Avengers movies when I was younger, probably in the early 2000s, that were made. I thought all of those had better animation to them. Again, kind of coming back to Disney and having a budget, this kind of reminds me of like B-rated animation that I would see on like Netflix. Not to, crap on Netflix or anything like that, but again, it's coming back to that. You've got all this money, and I kind of don't feel like we're really putting our best foot forward in that department. Some of it seems very like kind of clayish looking in the face, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
Almost like stop motion.
Yes. Again, when stuff in the 90s is kind of outdoing it, I think they need to take a step back, either source people out who used to work like at Fox or, some of these other companies that owned like the X-Men and Spider-Man, stuff like that. Go, hey, why don't we have some of them come on the team and show us kind of how it's done? Because obviously they did it for 5-10 years and they ran great. In fact, they're so great they're on Disney Plus. So
I think they just kind of wanted to stand out, not look like rehashes, have kind of their own unique style. But yeah, it's not bad. It's different, but this leads us into another aspect of these shows, the voice acting. For me, the voice acting is all over on this series, all over the place. And I'm almost certain that I read an article, I don't have it off the top of my head, but that they were going to have everybody who plays the roles in the movies, the actors, actually be able to voice every single one of the characters, and that was a lie. That did not happen. Yeah, they got Peggy Carter, but Steve Rogers is not voiced by Chris Evans at all. The General is not voiced by Tommy Lee Jones. I know they got the guy from The Walking Dead who voiced Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, but he does impressions, so he can totally get away with it. He sounds like the original voice actor of Red Skull, which I'm blanking on. The guy from The Matrix. So that was fine, but everybody else, it was so jarring, and I was just like, that's not that character. It did. The voice acting took me out of it way more than the animation.
I agree with that. It's one of those things that just, because it even has on the opening credits and everything, it goes through all the people's names that are, Chris Evans, like it says their names going through it, and it doesn't say Chris Evans, it doesn't say,
Right.
and it's like, if you're going to do it on MCU characters, get the proper actors and actresses that played those voices. Otherwise, everyone's going to be, that doesn't sound like him. That's going to, as you said, take you out of the whole feel of it.
Well, odds are Chris Evans declined. Let's be honest here.
I mean, what did you think of the voice acting?
I'm very biased. I am extremely
In a good way or a bad way? I mean, what is your bias?
Jeffrey Wright can do no wrong.
Well, yes, okay, but he's not playing
Him
a character
as
that's ever
the
been.
Watcher?
Yes, he's the best original voice actor in this show, but he hasn't played anybody in the MCU other than this new character we've seen, so that's not an issue. But when Steve is not voiced by Chris Evans, you can tell.
That man could spit on me and spend a full 30 minutes narrating how bad of a person I am, and I would apologize and say thank you.
Wow.
Okay.
Did you hear that, Jeffrey Wright?
Jeffrey Wright.
Spit on Lilith.
How you doing?
Spit in her mouth.
I mean, some of the voice acting was okay.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm biased. Jeffrey Wright was great, but the rest was okay.
Peggy Carter. They did get the original Bucky Barnes. Stanley Tucci was in it. Toby Jones. So basically, most of the people that still have a contract were there for their original voices. But outside of that, the General did not sound right at all.
At all.
No.
Most of
pretty sure he's voiced from the guy in Cabin in the Woods, one of the tech guys.
Yeah, most of the
Bradley Whitford.
Most of the commandos sounded wrong. I mean, Red Skull was okay. I didn't really have a problem with his voice. Because I know we're not going to get the original voice actor for him back anytime soon.
No, never.
Um,
We couldn't even get him in a big budget live action film. So
yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, at the end of the day, the ones that were good were really good, but the ones that were bad were very, very bad.
Agreed.
I think we're going to get a reoccurring theme tonight.
We all hated it.
It was terrible.
Again, it comes back to Disney has a big budget, and this is how they're spending their money. I think we could have done better. Now, am I saying that the series is terrible or that every single, person acting, did a terrible job? No. I'm just thinking for as high of a level that we could
We know
do better.
Disney has an entire office building filled to the ceiling with blank checks.
True.
Use them.
Again, like the general, he was so it was terrible. It was like a high pitched kind of squeaky annoying voice. You're like, oh my gosh, if I was Captain Britain, I would have beaten the tar out of you
Big
just for your voice.
Big time.
Yes, big time. Exactly.
Okay, well, we've went over these points and topics. So I say we go around the room or the PC and we give our thoughts. My final thoughts on this, disappointing, majorly. The animation was fine. Voice acting was terrible and all over the place, except for the actual actors that returned to do their respective roles. The hardcore feminism down my throat was, I was choking. I felt like I was drowning. You know, make a good story. You know, feminism is not a driving plot, especially in this specific story. I'm sorry, it's not. But yeah, definitely a major stumble out the gate. Was not happy with what I got, especially coming from Disney and how hooked I was on their live action shows. Those are my thoughts. So for this first episode, I would probably have to give it a 3 out of 10. Lilith?
It was bad. It was really bad. I don't even have anything interesting to add on to that. It was just bad. If you're watching the Marvel What If series, skip episode 1. I'll give it a 2 out of 10. But Jeffrey Wright, I'll give my number a 10 out of 10. It looks great on you.
The three is for Jeffrey
It's a
Wright.
10.
Is for Jeffrey Wright.
The 3 is a 10 for Wright.
If it didn't have Jeffrey Wright, this would definitely be a 1. So
Yeah.
Logan?
I'm gonna first off give my score. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. Just personally, it's easy to get up
Wow.
on.
That's pretty high.
I like the animation style. I like it.
That's
It is
fair.
a little bit choppy, but I it's one of those things like I could get into it and it reminds me of like the old Reboot cartoon that I used to watch when I was a child. Like if you guys remember that show at all. Reboot.
I do not.
It's on Toonami. But I think that is probably the only driving force in this one that I'm giving it that score for. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but with all the other characters, I think there's better ways it can go. So I'm 5 out of 10 solely on me liking the animation style.
Okay. That leaves it to you, Lance. What's your rating and your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. It's not the worst I've seen, but it is most certainly not the best. I'm with Logan on this. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Just for the first episode.
Wow. I did not expect that coming from you.
I'm being a little.
I thought it was going to easily be in the negatives.
Well, yeah. I'm feeling generous today.
Okay. Super generous. Did you get paid by Disney and you didn't tell us? Are we running this equipment and you have a check in your pocket from Disney?
No.
I
Now
want to cut.
Hey,
I'll give
Disney.
I'll give you a little bit. I used to have an aunt who, believe it or not, used to work in the advertising section. I am not going to give names or companies she used to work for.
He's paid off.
Yo, my dad's
When-
Bill Gates.
When she would, I guess, part of doing her job, she did a couple gigs with Disney, and in like some of their offices, I don't know exactly to what degree this was played out in, but some of the office personnel had to act like characters, like they had to stay in tune. I don't know if it was like Disney characters or Marvel or Star Wars characters. I don't know if like some of their office personnel had like desks that were decorated and they kind of just did it for fun, but if they went out of character, it was like a big deal.
That is
Again,
terrifying.
I will.
It is true though. I can attest kind of firsthand with that. Oh, second.
We can't say too much about Inside Disney. We'll get banned.
I know. I know someone that works for the mouse, and it's wild.
Yep. So, all right. Those are our thoughts and our review and discussion on the first episode of Marvel's What If. If this is how it's going to go, I'm not interested. Not interested in the slightest, and we'll see if they can salvage it in the upcoming episodes. With that all said, thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like, click subscribe, share with your friends, and we will see you in the next one. So, goodbye, everybody.
See you.